My friendships with women will always be just as important as my marriage. And my husband knows that. He knew that before we got married. Especially my BFF, Liz, who I talk about all the time on here. She was my first soulmate, and she's still my soulmate. She taught me how to love. She taught me how to have relationships. She taught me how to have conflict in relationships. She taught me how to open up my heart. She is and has been for, 18 years at least, maybe 19, been the most important relationship in my life. And I talk about her all the time. So this annoying person just got blocked because they're doing what a lot of women do on my page. Not a lot, sorry. Actually, I get stuff like this a lot. I get way more love and support and amazing comments that I learn from. And I get feedback that I appreciate because I'm going to miss sometimes. So it's not that I'm against feedback, but this, you're just being a bitch. And, women tell me I screech, whatever that means, which is basically them policing how I talk. And women police each other. We police each other more than men police us, to be honest. I'm not going to stop screeching, whatever that means. Is that screeching? I don't even know what y'all talk when you say that. I don't care. I'm not changing how I talk. I'm not performing. This is how I literally talk. The only time I talk differently is when I talk to my dog, the little baby, okay? Then I talk to him differently because he's my baby. And children, yeah. Oh, if you're a woman who comes onto my page and says a bunch of nonsense, you're getting blocked. You lose access to my amazing content that I pour into and spend ridiculous amount of hours every day, even a Sunday night making. I literally never take a day off, which is part of the problem. I need to fix that. Honestly, this is not sustainable. But anyway, I want to talk about female friendships because that is me and my best friend had a little misunderstanding several weeks ago, and I tried to forget about it and tried not to focus on it and all that stuff. But it was bothering me. And because it was bothering me, but I really didn't have a moment to call her and discuss it. And because I'm, avoidant, don't want to deal with things. I just was like, whatever, it's fine. I'll deal with it later. And I felt like I was dying on the inside. When my relationships with the women in my life are threatened, I feel like I'm dying. And that may sound like super dramatic, but I was raised by a single mom and an older sister, and our dog, Fifi Marie Hamlet, was even a female. We're a house full of butchers. So I am used to having women, lots of women in my life. And even when I worked in the outdoors, whitewater raft guide, ski instructor, and I lived in towns like Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where it's like a 10-to-1 ratio of men to women in the ski town in the wintertime. And by the way, the odds may be good, but the goods are odd. The saying there, because there may be a lot of men, but they all suck. They're obsessed with themselves and they're chasing adrenaline. Not all skiers, hashtag. But even when I was living in a world where I was surrounded by men, living next to men, had very few opportunities for female friendships, I would go to the bar with a pen and paper in my pocket. And if I found a cool woman, I was like, what's your name? What's your number? Can I call you? Can we hang out? I always had at least one, if not two, close female friends in any town I've ever lived in. Because when I don't have that, I feel like I'm dying. And I've started to realize, I think it's just because even though I could talk to my husband about anything, literally anything, I'm not afraid to talk to him about anything. But there is something that gives me comfort, it gives me life, it gives me joy, it helps me feel seen and heard when I'm with women who had shared experiences and who know what it's like, and they know me. And I remember when I was traveling around South America for several months alone, and I was couch surfing, and I couldn't find anyone to host me other than men. And I just assumed, it's cool, it's a public platform, there's reviews, if any of these men were shady, they wouldn't be on here. Boy, was I wrong. Anywhere you go in the world on couch surfing, it doesn't even exist now because Airbnb ruined that. It was a really cool thing, and I stayed with a lot of amazing people. But every once in a while, I came across a man who was literally using couch surfing to try to meet women to have schmegs with. I remember when I got to Bariloche, I had been traveling for 3 weeks and staying with men, and none of those men were shady. They were just men. And I finally got to Bariloche after 3 weeks of no female intimacy. And I ended up becoming best friends with a woman who I got ditched by a man to go fork after I forked him in a car. I actually wrote about that for the Huffington Post, by the way. It's this one right here. No, this one, sorry. I found my best friend when we hooked up with the same guy. Her and I became like this because we were like, I was like, wait, I don't care if the guy I just forked in the car ditched me to go fork you afterwards. I don't care. You're cool. Let's hang out. We became best friends and we traveled together, and she even came on family vacation with me. And when my dad was like, how did you two meet? We're like, mutual friend. Anyway, same thing when I was traveling around Portugal and Spain by myself for like 6 weeks. Hard to meet women. All the men hosting me, even on Airbnb, tended to be men. All the people that I could meet were men. I thought I was dying. And of course, most of those men were trying to fork me. You know? So I will always prioritize women in my life. In fact, on Friday morning, I woke up and was like, because I haven't talked to my BFF about this problem, this one conversation, I called her. We resolved it like this. And it's funny, in the conversation, she was like, Melanie, you know you're like the most important person in my life. And I'm like, I know you too. Like, our husbands are always going to be very important in our life. Our partners, they're our soulmates. But my first soulmate was Liz. And she's been my soulmate for, almost 2 decades. And that's one reason why that's why I love Grace and Frankie. That's why I try to tell women to decenter men, date yourself, treat yourself the way you wish a partner would, and find friends who are not trying to sleep with you to learn how to build community and relationships with, because those are soulmates too. They can be. Your friendships are just as important as romantic relationships, the close ones, and should be nurtured and taken as seriously as any romantic relationship ever should be. That is a big message on my page, which is why I'm like, fork you for even leaving this comment. And then on Friday morning, I also, when I was crying, because I haven't seen some of my girlfriends in a while because they were busy. Everyone's been so busy in September. France is crazy in September because everyone is gone for 2 months. They come back and it's nuts. And I was crying to my husband. And he basically let me have the whole weekend. He sat home with the dog, could not find a dog sitter. So he stayed home all weekend so that I could go nourish those relationships. Not only is it important to me because of all the things I've just said, but I'm an immigrant living in a country thousands of miles away from family, thousands of miles away from my BFF. You know what I mean? My family, he has family here, and they love me and I love them, and they pour into me, but they're still his family. He's known them for 40 years. I've, only known them since I met him. Now, he knows if I do not invest time in my female friendships that I am not going to be a good partner to him. He knows that. Even if it had nothing to do with him, I'm not saying that's why he encourages it. He knows that they give me life, that I need them. It's not healthy to have your romantic partner, and then it's you versus the world. Because, come on, especially as a woman, I know patriarchy. I don't imagine us not making it. I actually believe a lot in us making it. But I also know it's patriarchy, and I also know things happen. And I think it's stupid for anybody to invest all of your time and energy into your spouse. That's why I wrote this. Because women are much better at building community outside of marriage. But a lot of men make it hard for us to do that. But when men don't do it, it ruins our life. So I got to spend Saturday night at an opera. I went to the opera because one of my guy friends, who's an amazing conductor, got me a free ticket. And he introduced me to one of his friends, and she was a woman, and she was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, can we be friends? Like, I'm still doing this. The same thing that I did. Oh my gosh, look at my double chin. See? Internalized misogyny. It's never going away, y'all. Even now, at the age of 45, whenever I meet a woman that's really cool, I let her know I think she's cool. And I, take her number. And then I reach out. Because if you ever cut my lifeline off, which is usually relationships with women, it's not always women. It can be trans, non-binary. I don't care. But if you cut my lifeline off of my friendships outside of our marriage, my marriage will die. My marriage will die. Because I know by now, if I'm not pouring into myself and feeding myself and maintaining relationships with the people who help me be Melanie outside of Melanie's marriage, I will not be able to show up as Melanie in my marriage because I'll lose myself. And that's all patriarchy wants me to do, is lose myself to a man.